The year was 1944, and the world was consumed by the flames of the Second World War. Across Europe, battles raged in towns, forests, and fields as the Allied forces pushed back against the Axis powers. Among the countless soldiers on the front lines was Lieutenant Daniel Carter, a young man from a quiet town in Maine, whose life had been transformed by the call to arms. Daniel had grown up near the rocky shores of the Atlantic, where the sea breeze carried the scent of salt and the promise of endless horizons. He had been a fisherman's son, accustomed to the rhythm of the tides and the challenges of the ocean, but the attack on Pearl Harbor had shattered his idyllic life, pulling him into a conflict that spanned continents. By 1944, he was a seasoned officer commanding a platoon in the 101st Airborne Division. The mission that lay before Daniel and his men was as daunting as any they had faced. They were to parachute into occupied France as part of Operation Market Garden, a bold attempt to secure key bridges and hasten the liberation of Europe. The stakes were immense, and failure was not an option. On the night of September 17th, the men assembled near their C-47 transport planes, the hum of engines mixing with the murmurs of soldiers checking their gear. Daniel moved among them, offering words of encouragement and reassurance. His second-in-command, Sergeant Jack Thompson, stood nearby, his usual stoic demeanor masking the tension they all felt. "Think we'll make it, Lieutenant?" Jack asked, his voice low. Daniel met his gaze, the weight of command heavy on his shoulders. "We've trained for this, Jack. Stick to the plan, and we'll see it through." The men loaded into the planes, their parachutes strapped tightly, their weapons ready. As the aircraft roared into the night sky, Daniel felt the familiar mix of fear and determination that accompanied every mission. He glanced at the men under his command, their faces illuminated by the dim red lights of the cabin. Some whispered prayers. Others stared ahead in silence. The flight to the drop zone was fraught with danger. Flak bursts lit up the night, shaking the planes and sending shrapnel flying. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom, warning of enemy anti-aircraft fire. Despite the chaos, Daniel kept his composure, shouting to his men to prepare for the jump. When the green light signaled, the soldiers leapt into the void, their parachutes unfurling against the dark sky. Daniel's descent was a blur of wind and adrenaline. He landed in a field, his boots sinking into the damp earth. Around him, the sounds of battle erupted as the paratroopers engaged German forces. Daniel regrouped with a handful of his men, including Jack and Private Tommy Hayes, a fresh-faced recruit barely out of high school. Together, they navigated the dense woods, their objective clear: a bridge over the Rhine River that would be critical to the Allies' advance. The journey to the bridge was a harrowing ordeal. The men encountered pockets of resistance, engaging in firefights that tested their resolve. In one village, they faced a fierce German counterattack, forcing them to defend their position until reinforcements arrived. Daniel's leadership was put to the test as he coordinated the defense, directing his men with calm precision. Among the chaos, Daniel found moments of humanity. He remembered a night spent in the ruins of a church, where the men shared stories and laughter despite the looming danger. Tommy spoke of his dreams of becoming a writer, while Jack recounted tales of his childhood on a Kansas farm. These moments reminded Daniel of what they were fighting for: a world where dreams and laughter could thrive. As they approached the bridge, the intensity of the fighting escalated. The Germans had fortified the area, determined to hold the strategic crossing. Daniel's platoon joined forces with other units, forming a cohesive assault force. The battle that ensued was a grueling test of endurance and courage. Under heavy fire, Daniel led his men in a daring flanking maneuver, using the cover of darkness to outwit the enemy. The fighting was brutal, with hand-to-hand combat in the trenches and buildings near the bridge. Jack's sharpshooting skills proved invaluable, while Tommy displayed unexpected bravery, saving a wounded comrade under fire. The bridge was finally secured. After hours of relentless combat, the victory came at a heavy cost, with many lives lost. As dawn broke over the battlefield, Daniel surveyed the scene, his heart heavy with the weight of sacrifice. He knelt beside a fallen soldier, whispering a silent prayer. The days that followed were a blur of regrouping and advancing. Daniel and his men continued to push forward, their determination unwavering. Despite the toll the war exacted, the liberation of France brought moments of triumph, as grateful civilians welcomed the soldiers with open arms. Yet the shadow of loss lingered, a constant